Hey Eurovision fans, it's Tom coming to you from Dublin. I'm back for another Eurovision update video. Today I'm going to be wading through the toxic swamp that is Twitter to pick out all the biggest and juiciest Eurovision news and deliver it nicely wrapped in a beautiful bow straight to your doorstep. So let's kiki. So Twitter can be a great way for exchanging opinions and getting the best news. It can also be an absolute and utter cesspool of hatred and prejudice and terrible things. So I get that why a lot of people aren't interested in being in it. Pre-2020, I had no interest in it whatsoever. But I am very active on Twitter. I see a lot of the news stories. I spend a lot of time in it every day. So I thought it would be cool if I could digest everything that's happening into Twitter into the main things so that you don't have to go on. And if you are on Twitter, you can maybe just see some stuff that you saw discussed. So let's start with the first thing, and that was yesterday, BBC News article reviewing all of the 37 entries dropped. And this was met with a pretty frosty reception. So when I first saw this article, my reaction to it was slightly just kind of rolling my eyes. This is something that the BBC News has done every single year. This correspondent who wrote this article, he does it every year. I don't usually read it. It does have quite a bitchy tone, which is the general average tone that is used in the UK when writing about the Eurovision. So I didn't make too much of it, but then I actually saw Joker out, the Slovenian act for this year. They got a pretty bad review in the article, and they quote retweeted it saying, "Thanks hosts, can't wait to meet you too, ha ha ha." So they took it in good humor, but at the end of the day they did see the article. BBC is a gigantic corporation that has lots and lots of different divisions: sport, news, entertainment, children's, everything. So the BBC Eurovision and BBC News are separate divisions, but at the end of the day, I don't blame anyone outside the UK or Ireland not understanding that. At the end of the day, it says BBC, so that's the people who are hosting you in May. I think it's very normal that any of the artists reading this are going to go, wow, that's weird. We are being hosted in Liverpool and this person is saying that we're shit. So the next day, Joker Out actually posted this to their Instagram feed. It's a quote that they gave a British tabloid. They basically said that they were pretty unimpressed with what was written. They're already under a lot of stress and they thought that the BBC would be more understanding of that. So I have a couple opinions on this. First of all, I think there should have been some communication between the divisions, and BBC Eurovision maybe saying to news, hey, that article you normally do, can you either lighten the tone on it a little bit, just be less bitchy, which is probably a good thing in general. I do feel like it's like unnecessarily mean in some parts. Not all of it's negative, by the way. Some of the reviews are very, very positive, but it's very much that slightly condescending tone that does still prevail in the British media's coverage of Eurovision, kind of looking down on wackiness and silliness, and this isn't real music, and making kind of very dated comparisons. So I think that attitude would be a good thing to phase out anyway. I think it's slowly improving after last year with Sam Ryder, but definitely long term. It's in Ireland as well. I don't think it's as bad in Ireland as the UK, but I have to admit I don't read Irish media as much. I'm friends with one of the correspondents for one of the main newspapers in Ireland, and she covers it in a very positive way. So my only experience with Irish newspapers is that maybe the tabloids are a little bit more trashy. The optics of it are really bad. You're hosting people and then you're saying this song is shit. And as I tweeted about later, you could very much see that people who were really slammed in the article, like Romania, Slovenia, Ireland, could very much turn around if one of their requests for lighting or staging or anything like that is refused. They can very much turn around and go, oh, well, we know that you have it in for us because we've got an article under your name saying that you're shit. Now it's BBC News, it's not them, but it still doesn't matter. It looks bad. Sometimes perception is actually more important than the reality of the small divisions of a large corporation. By the way, I've got to say, in general, I think the BBC has been very good this year. Some things are a couple late. I thought the tickets were kind of late, but generally think like the logo and the hosting, I thought the allocation draw was the best allocation draw I've ever seen. And I think that the show is going to be really, really excellent. The stage works. So like I'm very, very net positive in the BBC so far. It's a small slip up, but like it was so easy to avoid with a bit of just common sense. Okay, so another person who's doing reviews, but in a slightly nicer way, is Chris Harms from Lord of the Lost, representing Germany this year. I tweeted about this because I thought it was really lovely. He's gone through all the entries. He's reacted to semi-final 1 and semi-final number 2 on the German Eurovision channel. I reckon watching it, it's really interesting. He gets very technical with each entry, and even songs he doesn't like, you can see he realizes the situation that he's in. He's going to be meeting these people. He's a representative for his country, so he just manages it in a very clever way. He doesn't lie or BS, but he also just says, look, this is not for me. And then he goes into some technical elements, which I thought was super interesting, about the beats and head voices and chest voices. And some of the songs that he liked, I thought was really charming and unexpected as well. So I love this because for me, this is Germany sending someone who's just got a little bit more real kind of personality, like earthy. They've sent very nice people before, but I felt like the Germany entries before were just kind of bland, and their artists were just like nice, but didn't really make much of an impact. Whereas I think Chris is going to end up being like one of the darlings this year, like in the same way that Sam Ryder last year really made an impact because he was so bubbly and lovely and British, and he represented and kind of was like an ambassador. I feel like Chris Harms is an ambassador for Germany this year, so I'm really enjoyed those videos. I'm so behind Germany this year. I really hope that they do well. I have actually downloaded the song. I've started listening to it, so it's going up my rankings. So something funny that dropped on Reddit. Now Reddit, you always need to take with a pinch of salt. This could absolutely and utterly be made up, but still it's kind of like a fun, interesting thing to look at. It could potentially be true. It is the price list for special effects at Eurovision. So if you want pyro, if you want spinning glitter or whatever, or a wind machine, I would assume you would need to go through a shopping list and order it in advance. So it seems like a realistic concept to me. Not so unrealistic that it would leak either. I would assume this to be sent out to a lot of people. First of all, the price, I'll put it up here, but the price of some of these things is incredible. So first of all, the first thing to know is that there's a difference price for semi-finalists or big five, because semi-finalists are potentially in more shows, and you do get a refund if you don't qualify into the final. Some of the special effects had amazing names, assuming it's real. Freeze fog, wave flamers, CO2 jet, I think that's just dry ice. Sparkular cyclone, that is a drag name if ever I heard one, or if I had an album like a disco, EDM, Eurovision album, I would call it Sparkular Cyclone. Freeze fog, this is starting to sound a little bit like, we already had freeze fog. So 2 freeze fogs. It sounds a little bit Pokemon, I have to admit, like a water ice move. We have a flame blazer, another Pokemon move, another Sparkular Cyclone. Wind machines, this was one of the big ones. A wind machine is £1,720, which is approximately 18 or 1900 euro. Yeah, just to turn on a wind machine, that's quite expensive. I assume it's like the technical people to bring it in, and like dragging and putting it in the right place, and then electricity involved, and then doing that for several shows and all the rehearsals. It's kind of like taking everything into account, not just like switching it on. Electricity bills are bad, but they're not that bad. We've also got G-flames. If you want to find your G-spot, you need a G-flame. That sounds like a vibrator. And then Sparkular, just regular Sparkular, no cyclone. And then you can see the description of how long these things last for. And of the special effects, the most expensive thing is the CO2 jet. That's £16,500 if you're semi-finalist. And then we've got the pyro effects. So pyro effects are more like these big flamey sparks. We've got mines and comets. So one hit is 8,400 euro. I don't like that the hit sounds very narcotics to me, but yeah, one hit. So you see how many hits you're going to take. If 10 hits and you're spending £80,000 down the drain. Sparkful wall. Now I'm guessing a sparkful wall is what Chanel had at the end of her performance, where it almost looks like it's raining. Didn't Emily de Forest have the same thing? I think he also had the rain as well. So it's like a great kind of finale thing for a performance. So I'm guessing that's what that is. Then we have comets. I think they're the ones that kind of shoot up. Mines, comets, which are the ones where it's just like pure fire flame? I'm not sure. Maybe that's flame blazer. I don't know. These names are amazing though. They all are drag names, Pokemon names, the names that you give like a car if you're like this really camp over the top person. So I thought that was very interesting. If it's fake, I still think it's hilarious. And this is why I'm not ahead of delegation, because if it was me, I would be like 10 of that and 10 of that. I'm just spending the whole budget on freeze fogs and sparkler cyclones and G-flames. G-flame for everyone. Everyone gets a G-flame. You get a G-flame and you get a G-flame. I thought that was very funny yesterday when I saw that. Another thing posted yesterday by Dan International, who is someone I follow on Twitter. He had a really interesting thing where he counted up all the streams, the Spotify stream counts on the 6th of April. And I gave a really interesting like list going through. So Italy in first, Norway in second, Sweden in third, Finland in fourth, and Poland in fifth. Do you think you would possibly need to factor in the population as well? For example, Italy has 60 million people. So you divide it by 60, it's not a pure science, but you get what I'm saying. So Norway has 5.5 million, so divide that by 5.5, and Sweden, etc. So it would be kind of interesting to see like what are those streams divided by population. I'd say Norway and Sweden are probably pretty high, and that would actually bring Poland down, because Poland's in fifth with 6 million right now, which is obviously a bit of an exaggeration. Poor San Marino, less than 1,000. This is on Spotify. The other thing to factor in is that like people like me, I don't use Spotify. I have no interest in Spotify whatsoever. If I like a song, I download it and I put it on my playlist and I do like a shuffle or something like that. So then none of my listens are registered, and I have a lot of listens for Serbia, for example. That's my most listened to picked song. It's my second most listened to song of the season. My most played song of the season, you're gonna have to wait until my top 10 national final videos, because one of the national final songs is my most played of the season and it didn't qualify. And the final story for you is about Let 3 from Croatia. They had a promotion where they revealed they had a golden tractor. Yeah, that could give a slight look into what their staging will look like. If they bring that golden tractor on stage, I think it's gonna be such a cool, funny moment. It looks nice, it looks expensive. It doesn't look too expensive, but it's kind of like fun. It looks like a lot of effort and time has been put into it, which is one of the things I've always said about their song is it needs to look not like a joke entry. They need to get the message across that this is a real song, there's a real band, there's nothing jokey about this. And one of the ways they can do that is by having like very put together props that look expensive and very thought out. So I like this golden tractor. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing it in Liverpool. Okay, so that is our wade through the messy swamp. Hopefully we found some gems. We also found some bats. And bats and gems together, it's another Pokemon adventure. If people like this series, I will continue it. I'm on Twitter anyway, so it's not too difficult for me to just pick out the main talking points and bookmark them, and then I can sum them all up for you, kind of maybe once a week or something. We'll see how people react to this, if they enjoy it or not. But yeah, that's my new series. I need to come up with a name for it. If you've got a name, you can drop it in the comments. Tom's Twitter update. It's too basic. Tom's Twitter tales. Tom's Twitter tales. I think that's it. Tom's Eurovision Twitter tales. Yeah, it has to have Eurovision in there. Otherwise, you're just like, what? This could be about anything. Let me know what you thought about all the Twitter stuff in the comment section down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And thanks so much for watching. I'm seeing another reaction video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah.